Hello student, I am Arun Devkar, Assistant Professor, AI SSMS College of Water Management and Catering Technology. Let us start with a new chapter on structure and functions of ecosystem. The objective of the sessions are explore the structure, components, type and functions of the ecosystem. The ecosystem is the structural and functional unit of ecology where the living organisms interact with each other and the surrounding environment. In the other word, an ecosystem is a chain of interaction between organism and their environment. The term ecosystem was first coined by A.J. Tansley, an English botanist, in 1935. There are two types of ecosystems. An ecosystem can be small as an oasis in a desert or as big as an ocean, spanning thousands of miles. There are two types of ecosystem. First one is terrestrial ecosystem and second one is aquatic ecosystem. In the terrestrial ecosystem are exclusively land-based ecosystem. There are different types of terrestrial ecosystem distributed around various geological zones. They are as follows: forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, tundra ecosystem, desert ecosystem. Let us discuss forest ecosystem. A forest ecosystem consists of several plants, animals and microorganisms that lives in the coordination with the abiotic factors of the environment. Forests help in maintaining the temperature of the earth, are the major carbon sinks. Grassland ecosystem. In a grassland ecosystem, the vegetation is dominated by the grasses and the herbs. Temperate grassland, savannas grasslands are some of the examples of the grassland ecosystem. Tundra ecosystem. Tundra ecosystems are devoid of trees and are found in the cold climates or where rainfall is a source. They are covered with snow for most of the years. The ecosystem in the erratic or mountain tops of the tundra type. Desert ecosystem. Deserts are found throughout the world. These are regions with very little rainfall. The days are hot and the nights are cold. Aquatic ecosystem. Aquatic ecosystems are ecosystems present in body of water. These can be further divided into two types of, namely freshwater ecosystem, marine ecosystem. Let us discuss freshwater ecosystem. The freshwater ecosystem is an adequate ecosystem that include lakes, ponds, rivers, streams and wetlands. These have no salt content in contrast with the marine ecosystem. Marine ecosystem, let us discuss marine ecosystem. The marine ecosystem include seas and the oceans. These have more sustainable salt content and get greater biodiversity in comparison to the freshwater ecosystem. Now we are going to discuss the structure of ecosystem. The structure of an ecosystem is characterized by the organization of both biotic and abiotic components. This includes the distribution of energy in our environment. It also includes climatical condition, privilege in that particular environment. The structure of an ecosystem can be split into two main components, namely biotic components and abiotic components. The biotic components and the abiotic components are interrelated in an ecosystem. It is an open system where the energy and components can flow throughout the boundaries. Structure of ecosystem highlighted in the biotic and abiotic factors. Biotic components. Biotic components refer to all life in an ecosystem based on nutrition. Biotic components can be categorized into autotrophs, heterotrophs, and saprotrophs or decomposers. Producer include all autotrophs such as plants. They are called autotrophs, as they can produce food throughout the process of photosynthesis. Consequently, all other organisms higher up on the food chain rarely produce for food. Consumer or heterotrophs are organisms that depends on other organisms for food. Consumers are further classified into primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. Primary consumer are always produce food for the environment. Secondary consumer depends on primary consumer for energy. They can either be omnivore. Tertiary consumer are organisms that depends on the secondary consumer for food. Quaternary consumer are present in small food chain. These organisms prey on tertiary consumer for energy. Furthermore, they are usually at the top of a food chain as they have no natural predators. Decomposer include such as fungi and bacteria. They are directly thrive on the dead and the organic matter. Decomposers are initially for the ecosystem is they help in a recycling nutrition to be reused by the plants. Abiotic components. Abiotic components are the non-living components of ecosystem. It include air, water, soil, minerals, sunlight, temperature, nutrients, wind. Functions of ecosystem. The functions of the ecosystems are as follows. It regulates the initial ecological process, support life system, and renders stability. Second one, it is also responsible for the recycling of nutrition between biotic and abiotic components. It maintains a balance among the various trophic levels in the ecosystem. It cycles the minerals throughout the biosphere. The abiotic components helps in the organic components that involve the exchange of energy. Then we are going to discuss the second point called food chain. Let us discuss food chain. The sun is the ultimate source of energy on earth. It provides the energy required for all plants for the life. The plants utilize this energy for the process of the photosynthesis, which is used for their food. During the biological process, light energy is converted into chemical energy and it's passed on throughout successive level. The flow energy from a producer to a consumer and eventually to an apex predator is called the food chain. Did the matter along with the organic debris is broken down into a constituent by the plants. The reducer then absorbs this constituent after gaining the energy. The reducer liberate molecules into the environment which can be utilized again by the producer. A classical example of food chain is in an ecosystem. The food chain is an ideal representation of flow of energy in the ecosystem. In food chain, the plants or producer are consumed by only the primary consumer. Primary consumer are fed by only secondary consumer, and so on. The producer that are capable to produce their own food are called autotrophs. Any food chain consists of three main trophic level: producer, consumer, and decomposer. The energy efficiency of each trophic level is very low. Hence, shorter the food chain, greater will be the accessibility of the food. Type of food chain in an ground ecosystem proceed as grass, mouse, snake, hawk. Food webs are more complex and interrelated at different topic levels. Organisms have more one choice for food and hence can survive better. Hawks don't restrict their food to snake. Snake eat animals and other mice, and mice eat grass as well as grasshoppers, and so on. A more realistic of feeding habit in an ecosystem is called food webs. Now we will be discussing next topic called food web. Elton presented the food web concept in year 1927, which he termed as food cycle. Elton described the concept of food web as the animal preys on the planets. These planets obtain the energy from sunlight. The latter planets may also be prey open by the environment until a reach where an animal has no enemies. It forms a testonomial on this food cycle. There are chain animals that are related together by the food, and all are dependent on plants in the long run. This is termed as a food chain, and all the food chains in a community is known as food web. A food web is a graphical of feeding connection among species of an ecological community. Food web include food chain of a particular ecosystem. The food web is an instrumentation of various techniques of feeding the links and the ecosystem. The food web is also explain the energy flow throughout the species of a community as a result of their feeding relationship. All the food chains are interconnected and overlapping within an ecosystem, and they constitute a food web. In natural environment or an ecosystem, the relationship between food chain and interrelated. These relationships are very complex as one organism may be a part of multiple food chains. Hence, a web-like structure is formed in place of a linear food chain. The food web-like structure is formed with a interlinked food chain, and such matrix that is interconnected is known as a food web. Food webs are an part of an ecosystem. These food webs permits an organism to obtain food from more than one type of organism of the lower trophic level. Everything living being is responsible and is a part of multiple food chain in the given ecosystem. Now we are going to discuss ecological pyramids. The trophic level of different organisms based on their ecological position as producer to final consumer is represented by the ecological pyramid. The food producer is present at the base of the pyramid and on the top. Other consumer trophic level are present in between. The pyramid include a number of horizontal bars presenting specific trophic levels. The length of each bar stand for the total number of individuals or biomasses or energy at each trophic level in the ecosystem. An ecological pyramid is a graphical representation outlined to show the biomass or bioproductivity at each trophic level in a given ecosystem. These are trophic pyramids: energy pyramid, or sometime food pyramid. Biomass is the quantity of living or organic matter present in an organism. Biomass pyramid represent the amount of biomass and how much of it is present in the organism at each tropical level. The productivity pyramid shows the production or turnover in biomass. Ecological pyramid initiate with producer on the bottom, such as green plants, and produce through the various trophic level, such as biomass that feed on plants, feed the environment, and those feed the environment. The highest level is shown at the top of the chain. An ecological pyramid of biomass represent the relationship between biomass and trophic level by quantifying the biomass present at each trophic level of an ecological community at a particular time. It is a graphical representation of biomass present in per unit area in different tropical level. Flow of energy through the food chain will be in a predictable way. Entering at the base of the food chain is primary producer and then moving up the food chain to higher tropical level. The transfer of energy from one tropic level to the next is not efficient. It may also be useful and productive to analyze how the number and biomass of organism differs across tropical levels. Both the numbers and biomass of organism at each tropical level should be affected by the amount of energy joining that tropical level. When there is a direct correction between energy, number and biomass, then biomass pyramid and number pyramids will be formed. However, the relationship between energy, biomass and number can be complex by the growth, form and size of organism and ecological relationship occurring among tropical area. These are the few of the types of pyramids. The ecological pyramids are of three categories. First one is pyramid of numbers. Second one is pyramid of biomass. Third one is pyramid of energy or productivity. Now we'll do the recap of today's session. For today's session, the objectives of the sessions are explore the structure of the ecology, components of the ecology and types and functions of the ecosystems in the ecosystem. These are the few of the types of ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem we had discussed today, and aquatic ecosystem we had discussed today, right? We had discussed forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, tundra ecosystem, desert ecosystem. Under the aquatic ecosystem, we had discussed freshwater ecosystem and marine water ecosystem. Then we had discussed structure of the ecosystem in today's chapter, right? That is biotic components and abiotic components of the ecosystem. We had discussed structure of the ecosystem, highlighting the biotic and abiotic factors, that is producer, consumer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, quaternary consumer, decomposer, and abiotic components. Abiotic components are air, water, soil, minerals, sunlight, temperature, nutrients, wind, turbidity. Thank you.